Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. In this video we'll be trying out Groundon in Regulation G. Let's get into it. As you can see we got some past Paradox Pokemon and Gouging Fire, Fluttermane, and Raging Bolt to take advantage of the Sun. I personally like Groundon better than Groudon setting up the Sun because it's a little bit bulkier, but Groudon is definitely viable. This is also the team that I took to the Indianapolis Regionals, which I had a lot of fun using. As you can see, the team is rounded out with the Rillaboom with the Fake Out and Grassy Glide support, and the King Gambit who is slow enough to take advantage of the Trick Room sometimes. Without further ado, let's get into the battles. Alright, let's get into the first game. My opponent starts off with the Tornadus Calyrex Shadow. I start off with the Groudon Gouging Fire. I'm able to get the Sun up and activate that Photosynthesis. Right off the bat, my opponent goes for the Terra Ghost and sets up the Rain Dance, fires off the Astral Barrage. Thankfully both of my mons are able to hang on. I retaliate with the double Heat Crash and do barely any damage. Wanting to get the Sun back up, I switch Groudon out and go into Raging Bolt, go for the Burning Bulwark to preserve Gouging Fire. He goes for the Astral Barrage, Raging Bolt's able to tank that, goes for a Bleak Windstorm, Raging Bolt tanks that as well. My opponent then switches and goes into the Clefairy, as I switch and go back into my Groudon and get that Sun going. I know with the boost, Raging Bolt should be able to take out Calyrex with a Thunderclap, but he predicts that, goes for the Protect. Unfortunately, he's able to outspeed and has the Follow Me to protect Calyrex, goes for the Astral Barrage, takes out both my mons, gets the double boost. Things are not looking great for me, but we're going to continue to play on. As I go into my last two Pokemon, the Gouging Fire and the Fluttermane, get the double Photosynthesis boost. As my opponent switches out the Clefairy and goes into the Urshifu, protect with the Calyrex. Trying to get a little speed control, I go for the Icy Wind, which only connects with the Urshifu, go for the Heat Crash, does nothing to Calyrex. On the next turn I'm able to outspeed, go for the Moonblast, take out the Urshifu. Gouging Fire is also able to outspeed, goes for the Heat Crash, takes out the Calyrex. My opponent then goes into his last two Pokemon, the Tornadus and the Clefairy. He goes for the Follow Me and the Prankster Rain Dance, getting rid of both my boost. I go for the Moonblast, get some good damage on Clefairy, followed up with the Heat Crash, he tanks that also. My opponent follows up with the Helping Hand onto the Tornadus, as I go for the Burning Bulwark, go for the Moonblast, clean up the Clefairy. He goes for the boosted Bleak Windstorm, Fluttermane tanks that, no problem. Wanting to get max damage, I go for the Terra Fairy Moonblast, he just hangs on, fires off another Bleak Windstorm, cleans up the Gouging Fire. Thankfully, we know we're able to outspeed, go for another Moonblast, take out the Tornadus. Good game. Alrighty, let's get into game number 2. My opponent starts off with the Toedscruel Iron Hands. I lead off with the Groudon Gouging Fire again. Off the bat, we know that we can outspeed and get some big damage as he goes for the Fake Out on the Groudon, allowing Gouging Fire to go for the Heat Crash, take out Toedscruel in one shot. My opponent's next Pokemon is the Heatran. On his first turn, Heatran goes for the Terra Grass as I go for the Howl, boosting my mons, fire off the Precipice Blaze, do barely anything and miss Iron Hands. He retaliates with the Heat Wave and Drain Punch combination, which thankfully both of my mons are able to survive. Getting a little greedy, I go for another Howl, giving myself another boost, fire off the Precipice Blades, take out Iron Hands. Unfortunately, Heatran survives, goes for another Heat Wave, takes out the Groudon. My next Pokemon is the Fluttermane and gets the Photosynthesis boost as he goes into his last mon, the Miraidon, gets their Electric Surge going. Not wanting to take the Fairy move, he goes for the Protect, which he ends up getting right. Unfortunately, due to Flash Fire, I can't go for the Heat Crash and he's able to hang on from the Breaking Swipes. Retaliates with the Flash Cannon, but thankfully due to the Focus Sash, I'm able to hang on. He then goes for the Protect with the Heatran as I go for the Moonblast, do some huge damage to Miraidon, go for the Breaking Swipes, clean up the Miraidon. The Sunlight finally goes away, but it doesn't matter. Fluttermane's still able to outspeed, go for the Shadow Ball, take out the Heatran. Good game. Alrighty, let's get into game number 3. My opponent starts off with the Charizard Groudon lead. I start off with my own Groudon and the Rillaboom. We get that Sun and Grassy Surge going. On the first turn, my opponent makes a good play, goes for the Protect with the Charizard as I go for the Fake Out, goes for the Precipice Blaze, both my mons are able to tank that. I go for the Rock Slide, do barely any damage to Groudon. Here is where the Solar Power Charizard is revealed and things are about to get interesting. On the next turn, my opponent goes for the Terra Fire on the Charizard, I go for the Grassy Glide, get some great damage. He goes for the Heat Wave, takes out both my mons. Just to top it off, Groudon starts bulking up right in front of my face. Down big, I then go into my last two Pokemon, the Fluttermane and the Gouging Fire, get both the Photosynthesis activated. Trying to preserve his Groundon, he goes for the Protect as I fire off the Shadow Ball right into it, do nothing. Go for the Breaking Swipes, get some good damage on Charizard with the crit. He fires off another boosted Heat Wave, does huge damage to Fluttermane, knocking it all the way down to its sash. Charizard just hangs on to the Solar Power recoil, and we all get some health back from the grass. On the next turn, I'm finally able to connect with the Shadow Ball, take out the Groudon. Follow that up with the Breaking Swipes, clean up the Charizard. After losing both mons, my opponent reveals the Roaring Moon and Hisui Arcanine. Anticipating my Fairy move, he goes for the Protect with the Roaring Moon. I go for the Moonblast, do absolutely nothing. Follow that up with the Breaking Swipes, which Arcanine tanks no problem and does not get the attack lower. Follows up with the Head Smash, takes out my Gouging Fire. At this point in the battle, I'm basically done for. As the Roaring Moon reveals its booster energy, gets the speed boost, I go for the Terra Fairy, he sets up the Tailwind, goes for the Flare Blitz, takes out my Fluttermane. Good game. Alrighty, let's get into the fourth game. I start off with the Groudon Gouging Fire combination. My opponent starts off with the Dialga Origin Rillaboom. We get the Sun and Grass on the field. Anticipating a Fake Out, I go for the Burning Bulwark right here. I also wasn't too sure what Dialga was going to go for, so I followed it up with the Protect. He goes for the Fake Out and then sets up the Trick Room. On the next turn, he goes for the Priority Grass Heal. I get some huge damage. Follows it up with the Roar of Time. Takes out my Gouging Fire. I retaliate with the Precipice Blades, miss Dialga and do barely anything to Rillaboom. Hoping to get some offense started, I go into my Fluttermane. As my opponent goes for the Terra Grass, Grassy Glide, takes out the Groudon. Dialga takes a turn to rest, I go for the Moonblast, get some good damage on the Rillaboom. Down 2-0, I go into my Raging Bolt. Since I know he could outspeed in the Trick Room, I go right for the Terra Fairy. He goes for the Grassy Glide, knocks Fluttermane down to the sash. Follows it up with the Roar of Time, which does nothing to my Raging Bolt. I retaliate with the Snarl, trying to lower the special attack of the Dialga. Poor Fluttermane then goes for the Moonblast. Rillaboom's just able to hang on. Trying to stall out the last turn with the Trick Room, I go for the Protect with the Fluttermane. He goes for the Grassy Glide, does nothing. Unfortunately, that makes my Thunderclap do nothing, which looking back at it now was not the greatest play, as he goes for the Flash Cannon and gets some good damage. After we all get some health back, the Grass and the Trick Room finally go away, as my opponent switches into the Heat Ran, as I fire off the Moonblast and do barely anything. I followed it up with the Thunderbolt, but it's too late. Dialga goes for the Trick Room, and this game is just about over. Now able to outspeed, the Heat Ran goes for the Flash Cannon, takes out the Fluttermane, Dialga goes for the Flash Cannon, takes out the Raging Bolt. Good game. Alrighty, let's get into the last game for today as my opponent starts with the Palkia Origin Thundurus combo. I start up with my trusted Groudon Gouging Fire. Right off the bat, things start off terrible for me as my opponent goes for the Prankster Rain Dance, goes for the Hydro Pump, takes out my Groudon. On top of all that, I make a greedy play and go for the Howl. Trying to get something going, I go into my Raging Bolt, as he goes for the Protect and Thunder Wave, paralyzing my Gouging Fire. I retaliate with the Thunderbolt, get some good damage, but unfortunately get the full para. Expecting the Dragon move, I go for the Terra Fairy, get another full para. He goes for the Spatial Run, does absolutely nothing. Goes for the Wild Ball, so I tank that nicely. Go for the Dragon Pulse, Palkia just hangs on. On the next turn, he goes for another Thunder Wave, paralyzing Raging Bolt. Fires it up with the Hydro Pump, Raging Bolt just hangs on. I go for the Breaking Swipes, take out the Palkia. I followed it up with the Snarl, take out the Thundurus also. My opponent then reveals the last two mons of Cerulege and Iron Valiant, who activates the booster energy to get the Quark Drive boost. He goes for the Terra Bug on the Cerulege, I go for the Burning Bulwark, go for the Thunderclap, get some good damage. He goes for the Poison Jab, cleans up my Raging Bolt. Finally, he fires off the Poltergeist, does absolutely nothing to Gouging Fire. The rain finally goes away as I reveal my Fluttermane. He goes for the Poison Jab, does huge damage with the crit. I go for the Moonblast, take out the Iron Valiant in one shot. He goes for the Poltergeist, gets unlucky and misses, and then I make a very silly play, go for the Heat Crash, activate the Flash Fire. No problem though as I go for the Moonblast on the next turn, clean up the Cerulege. Good game. And that's the video. Please let me know what you guys think down below and stay tuned for future content. Peace.